Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Monday, and all of our guests today, including Noodles, Jamie McLennan, standing by, sponsored by Passant Motors. Passant is the home of No Tax November. Let Passant pay that pesky GST on your next vehicle purchase with them. Stop by their dealership located at 16315 Fraser Highway in Surrey, or check them out online at Passant Motors, BASANTmotors.com. Joined now by Noodles from TSN, Jamie McLennan. Thank you for doing this, sir. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing today?
Very, very, very well. Flames over the Canucks, 5-2, as people can tell by the picture in the background. You used to play for those Flames. But let's talk about the Canucks, if you don't mind. Lack of energy, giveaways, uncovered opponents in front of the net. Jamie, they're having all sorts of trouble defensively. The stats bear that out. What are you seeing when it comes to the Canucks in their own end of the ice?
Lack of commitment to detail. Now, it's funny. I'm not going to defend them, but I'm seeing that throughout the league. I call it the dog park defense, where I don't know where the lack of structure has come from in a lot of these teams. Now, we'll call it 20 games in. Some are 22, some are 19, all of that. But let's call it 20 games in. I don't know if the lack of training camp or lack of games in training camp, lack of practice time because of sports science and a condensed schedule, whatever's happened, the league, the product stinks. I'm sorry. And I'm in the rinks, you guys know. I call many games. I'm in the rinks, it feels like every day, and I watch all these teams play. It's rare you see a great game. If anything, I would say 8 out of 10 games are not very good, where the structure is missing, where the details of the game are missing. The parity is there. The league is watered down. But, the Canucks fall under that umbrella. They looked sloppy last night. The details were not good. Could you have gotten an extra save from McLennan? Yes. But at the end of the day, Calgary is a team that people are sleeping on because they look at where they are in the standings, and now that team's won 3 in a row. So does it speak to how well Calgary's playing and maybe they're getting some puck luck, or to what you talked about with Vancouver not being very sharp last night? They score early. Hronek gets that goal. I thought, okay, they look pretty good. Calgary's in a back-to-back situation, going to catch a tired team, and Calgary gets 5 goals in a row. And to me, it looked like Vancouver looked like the tired team. So I don't know. I don't have an answer, but they do not look like they're very organized in their own zone. And that's not a shot at the coach. It's more of a shot at the players and the execution of the detail of the game.
We're talking to the head of the National Hockey League PR department, Jamie McLennan. Hey, Jamie, you mentioned training camps, short training camps, a lack of practices. What about earlier than that, at the minor hockey level, junior hockey level? So much skill. The skating is absolutely beautiful. But what about the defensive game? Is it being taught well enough?
Well enough, I don't know if that's the right term, but it's certainly not a focus. And you're right. Like, you look at it, my kid is 8 years old. And on Thursdays, they have a skills session from 5 to 6 where they hire an outside guy who makes a boatload of money because all these parents will pay it to run through these kids, to handle the puck and go through cones and do all these things. But you're right. There's no advancement of where to go on the ice. What is a danger area as far as handling the puck and not? Like the hockey IQ is being taken out of it for just the raw speed and skill. And I don't know how many times, I'm sure you watch it going, what was he thinking on that play? And I don't know how many times, and whether it's at the NHL level or lower, you're going, where is the hockey sense to identify, hey, I'm the last guy back. I probably shouldn't curl and drag somebody. I should probably just make a safe, smart play. And you're not seeing that consistently. And you're right, at a younger age, the focus is on skill, because what pays the most in the NHL? It's goals and it's skill development and it's speed. But, the throwback of people who are responsible in their game, they might be the outlier right now, which is crazy to say. But I feel like that, players that have high hockey IQ might be might be the ones you covet because everybody else can skate, shoot, and score. It's just a matter of who can think the game at a high rate. And to me, the best teams are the ones who are organized and know how to play. I watched Colorado play last night. I don't know if they seem like they're never going to lose another game. I know I'm joking, but they just can beat you in every different way. Yes, everyone goes, well, Makar and McKinnon, but their depth, their goaltending, their structure, everything looks really sharp.
Hey, Jamie, tomorrow is going to be 2 weeks for Thatcher Demko. It's a groin injury. Any history with groin injuries at the NHL level for you? And, some people think this might be 4 or 5 weeks, but what's your feel on it?
Depends on the grade.
I think it's a grade 1.
Okay, so yeah, I've had like mild strains, hip flexors, all of that. The problem is I would say this, is it, every doctor that points to, the groin, well, they say it's attached to the knee bone, attached to the ankle, like there's a song that goes with that, right? And a lot of times when I deal with these therapists, they say, well, the groin is, yes, that's the injury, but you also have to look at the hip flexor and the pelvis and the knee, and he's had all sorts of lower body issues. So are they being extra careful with this so that you get the groin healed, but something else isn't weakened? That's probably when I first heard about his injury, they always say, well, it's not the injury he had before, it's something new, but they all seem to be in some form. And I'm only just quoting my therapist who's worked on my back and worked on other things in my life, saying, but they all are connected. Your body's connected, and you work on something and something else gets weakened. It concerns me because you guys know how much I love him. His biggest challenge is staying healthy, because when he was healthy, you look at what he was doing at the start of the year. He was unbelievable. But his biggest knock right now is just actually putting a jersey on, because he hasn't been able to do that consistently, where the word trust comes in, where you trust him that you're going to get 60 games out of him because he's just going to play every night. That's not the case right now. And it concerns me for Thatcher, because you're right, a grade 1 groin strain should have a timeline easily attached to that, and the rehab is quite simple. But with him, you don't know, because you don't know if something else flares up attached to that. And that's what concerns me for Demko.
What's concerning is your hometown team there is dead last in the Eastern Conference. Craig Berube, not happy on Saturday, said that performance was inexcusable. I think shots were 16-1 Montreal in the second at one point. What's going on in TO?
Okay, so I'm certainly not going to make excuses. I always say excuses are for losers. So they do have, I believe, 7 regulars out, which, the big boys too, right? Keep in mind it's Matthews and Nyes, and they're we'll call it number 2 defenseman in Tanev. And then, the part of their tandem in Stolarz is the goaltender. So yes, injuries, but you look throughout the league, everybody's dealing with it. Injuries, we'll call it adversity, including, we just talked about Vancouver losing their number 1 goaltender in Thatcher Demko. Quinn Hughes was out for time. So everybody's got to understand that. Right from the start of the season, even when Matthews and when Nyes was in the lineup and other players, Stolarz, they weren't playing to their capabilities. I think Nyes had a good start. Outside of that, Matthews was hit or miss. Stolarz was inconsistent. Tanev looked his age. So this is a team that's built heavier. They're certainly a veteran team, so we'll call them older. So they're older, slower, and a little bit heavier. That's not jiving on a Tuesday night in November, where the league, we just talked about it, is speed and skill. So, I'd like to see them healthy before I judge 100%. But Craig Berube's not wrong. The effort, the lack of execution, and then, the injuries have all caught up to them, and there's a reason why. Buffalo wins yesterday, and they climb over top of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you're right, they're last in the Eastern Conference. And here's the other thing I'll add as a cherry on top that people aren't focusing on. If you look at strength of schedule, they've had the easiest schedule in the National Hockey League. They have only played, I believe, 7 or 8 road games. Everything else has been at home. Where I look at, for example, the Edmonton Oilers have played 8 home games and 16 road games. So you look at strength of schedule, that has not favored the Toronto Maple Leafs. If anything, it's favored them too much because they've played all these home games, and the farthest they've traveled has been to Chicago and to Detroit and Columbus, which are hour and a half flights. So, they're in one. They've got to sort it out and do it in a hurry, or else they're going to be at the bottom of the standings.
I can't believe you didn't correct Rick. Toronto's not your hometown. You're an Edmonton boy.
No, I mean, you're there now, though.
Listen,
Grant Fuhr and all that.
Yeah, no
I hail from parts unknown. You're right. I grew up in St. Albert, Alberta, but I played junior in Lethbridge. I played for the Flames. Yes, I've lived in Toronto the last 15 years. We'll just say where I live now. Let's put it that way.
Meanwhile, Wild over Winnipeg 3-0. This Jesper Wallstedt, 32 saves, his third shutout in 4 games, 6-0-2 in the season, 2021 first rounder. He's taken the league by storm. Are you a believer, Jamie?
I am, and I saw him at the AHL level in the All-Star game. He's a hell of a goaltender, and you look at Gustafsson, they got from the Ottawa Senators. You look at Wallstedt, who's a developed goaltender for them. They're in really good shape in net. They really are. And I like that that's a healthy competition there. I like Wallstedt. I think he's got tremendous skill. I love his feet. I think he's got he might be a starter in the NHL, put it that way. So they might have 2 starters on their hands, which is really impressive. But, Minnesota, everyone doesn't think that's a sexy organization, but you look at it, they overpay for Kaprizov on paper right now. But keep in mind, Bill Guerin had his hands tied behind his back with the buyouts of Parise and Suter, right, for many years, and was still putting together a pretty good product. They've got good players there. I like Faber. I like Boldy. They've got some players coming, but this Wallstedt is a player, and he's a good goaltender. And Minnesota's in really good shape in net for many years to come.
5 straight wins for the Wild. Just hearkening back to something you said earlier, if the Canucks have a doctor who thinks the groin is attached to the knee bone, maybe that's their problem, Jamie. Maybe should they?
I was trying to think of the nursery rhyme. My kid is 8, and I swear I've heard that. The knee bone's connected to the
Close enough.
Couldn't get it out fast enough. That's my verbiage. It's not the doctor. It's Dr. McLennan here who doesn't know what's going on with his anatomy. Put it that way.
Yeah, well, maybe the Canucks will hire you. Thanks for this, Jamie. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. We'll chat soon.